So, welcome everybody to this iMoot session. We've got Gareth Barnard, who is going to talk to us about getting help on Moodle.org. From my view, Gareth is definitely one of the top 3 most helpful people on Moodle.org. One of the guys who can really get useful solutions that work. He puts a lot of effort into the site and has helped countless Moodlers over the years. So it'll be good to hear from him, and a great place to get some ideas about how to get help there. So over to you, Gareth.
Great, thank you, Andy. What I will do, I'll just turn my webcam off, then get to there. Right, welcome. The picture there is just a steam engine called the Royal Scout that I took at a place called Dawlish, which was a couple of weeks ago. Really nice part of the world. Great to see something I do in my spare time. Okay, we have got, this is our agenda. I'm going to cover trademarks and everything sort of listed there. Real different bits and bobs, a little bit of a mixture. Can go all the way down to talk about forums overview, rules, etiquette, what a moderator does, because I'm also a developer and I'm also a moderator as well. And talk about default information, how to do responses, how to test the reply, how do you know that it's valid? We'll talk about the flip side of things, which will come on later. A little bit of summary and a bit of homework, and also good answer. Ask a moderator, developer question, so please have your questions ready for that. Okay, a little bit of sort of legally bits, just try to slow you, because I am using Firefox, Ubuntu. There's pictures from screenshots from that. It's great because Firefox you could just screenshot. Ubuntu, you ask them really nicely. It says all right for taking screenshots, fine. Publishing on the web, great. I am using Windows, but Oracle's underneath it, and Moodle, all the trademarks there. I must say I am independent from all of the above, and I'm no way speaking for or endorsed by them. Okay, this is me. This is pre-Beard, so many years ago at Land's End. So the forums can be great, but they can be frightening, especially if you're new. If you're newbie to the forums, you think, oh, what's this, what's that? Not really quite sure. And especially they can get very technically very quickly, which can really make you really worried. And that's what this is about. Me, I develop course formats and themes. I started off as a software engineer, then I went and became a teacher, then I became an e-learning coordinator and a teacher, and that's how it got me into Moodle. And then I got into developing course formats because I saw a need in the real world in a classroom or teaching students. That's what got me to invent collapsed topics, and it took from there. And now I develop them full-time. I'm self-employed, and bits and bobs and education, I do things like this and other bits and bobs in it, so anything that sort of fills in a skill set. Okay, later on I said there is a ask a moderator developer question, so if there's anything you'd like me to answer as a moderator hat or a developer question, please make a note now. I'm terrible at sometimes multitasking and reading, doing what I'm doing on the screen and then reading the chat, so be so kind as to make a little note and then post it in the chat when we get to that slide. That would be absolutely brilliant. Thank you. That picture there is from Pixabay. You just thought, what does a typical moderator developer look like? I just fell in love with this lovely picture of cactus with the lovely big eyes reading a book. Okay, forums themselves. So as a moderator, I find a lot of people, they just think, oh, I've got a question, I don't know where. They leap straight into the general forum, and then they get a reply. And then the moderator there called Howard, then has to spend another couple of days later, then moves into another forum. And then that eventually get answers, but it's not targeted. So the person posting it doesn't get an immediate answer. Maybe they're in a right stick and they need someone. So finding the right forum for you from the outset is one of the best things and key things that you can do to get to people who are more likely to answer it. There's loads you can see on the slide there. We've got other components, and you'll look down on the forums, general plugins, authentication, blah blah blah. I'm the moderator of the courses and course format forum, and the themes one that you see down along below. Sometimes, if your post fits in more than one forum, then put in the one that's most suitable, and then put another post in another forum. But the critical thing not to get told off by a moderator is put a link to it. The whole idea is you don't want posts having multiple replies in multiple forums for the same thing, and somebody else wasting time and a whole thread being lost and caught, and multiple answers being the same thing, and people are wasting their bits of time and stuff. So always put it in the most appropriate forum, and then in another forum make a link to it and say, oh, please can you reply here, I think this first fits in other ones, and moderators will be happy with that, and other people then go to the right place. Now clearly I'm British because I'm a little bit Welsh, and there's lots of people talking other languages. You can find for your language other languages in Moodle.org course, and that is the link, and I think, yeah, you'll find in the course for this presentation I've put the references there. If I haven't, just nag me and I will. And you'll find your own language. The whole great community will help you there, but please, with the ones that are English, if you can keep it in English, that would go. Even if you go and use Google Translate, which I then sometimes do for other languages and adjust things, that would be brilliant. It is sort of part of the rules and etiquette. But just to make you aware of that, there are other languages. I believe those forums are really, really good, and lots of good people helping out there. So, okay, there are some rules of etiquette, which you are obliged to follow if by logging onto Moodle.org. When you sign up for an account, there's a site policy and there's a formal rules of conduct. So there are the links there. I do advise you, if you're not sure or thought, oh, I never knew that existed, go and read them, please, because it really is important. Because we will delete, we'll get blocked spammers, or block anybody, doing inappropriate material, or even imagine bullying, which is a horrible thing to do, or flaming, nasty. Don't do that. It's really, use your common sense, be adult. Don't be abuse or spam or anything. And when it comes down to my last point there, don't cross post. So they use that linking mechanism. If you're uncertain, contact a moderator, message them, or even post a post on the one of the general policy if you want to find out about things, and somebody will answer it. Okay, so you've got the links there, and it tells you all the sort of, you can't quite see on the screenshot, but you'll go to the site and it'll org there, and it will show you what you do and don't and what you need to do. Okay. Okay, moderator. There's lots of moderators around. Most of them forums have at least one, if not two or three. There's two of us on the courses and course formats forum, 3 on the themes. Most of us aren't paid. Most of them we do purely out of the kindness of our hearts. We do it because we want to, and we feel it's something really philanthropic to do, to really get. And it also helps us to keep an eye on things, and we learn things as well from it. But we have to abide by some guidelines, like you would if you were volunteering for another organisation. And you can find the rules there. Now, whether I realise you're not moderators, but if you realise, oh, this is what we have to then police, then you get an idea of what sort of the do's and don'ts. So we're there to enforce the code of conduct, so like job adverts, unsolicited advertising, spam, posting multiple forums again, posting in English forum other than English. A little bit of slack, but then that's why I mentioned the other forums previously. Confusing, a lot of people confuse with all their school site. Not so much these days. I will rule on no one. Only see it's signatures. Don't put a signature. If you've got like your name, that's fine. If you have then other words underneath it with your link to your site, that's an instant. We'll have to go in, tedious little thing, edit your post, remove it, blah blah blah. And quoted per copies of post, just make a link to it and say, or something like, or very, very, that's verbatim. So maybe you can look at RE, one little sentence should be fine. certainly have a look at that. And we're there to help them. Not only do we follow the guidelines, but we're there if you think, oh no, I've really put this in the wrong forum, contact the moderator. We have the power to move them from forum to forum to forum, or certainly out of the forums we moderate to another forum, then it becomes responsibility of another forum. And we've also got like another separate forum area for ourselves. So just contact anybody, and we can say, if we can't do it, I can certainly contact Helen, Mary Cooch, all the other people, to then ask them to sort things out for us. And we can also amend a post after the 30-minute deadline. So on our forum. So if you think, oh, I might mess with this one, I ended it the other day over, I want to change this word, just contact us, and our names are at the top of the forums, and we'll do our best to help you. So we are there to make your life easier. Okay, big, not bugbear of mine, but more thing that I keep asking, well, especially on the themes forum, is what version of Moodle are you running? Yeah, it says, oh, I've got a problem, and it's so critical to the people who can help you to know certain straightforward information, like the version of your plugin, the version of Moodle, and so forth, and screenshots. Everybody says a picture speaks 1,000 words. Well, that is completely true here, especially with there's so much going on. It's so great to say, just take a screenshot, big arrow, oh, it is there. Yeah. Now the critical one there is, if you don't know the versions, you can see there, you have to be a site administrator, by the way, to see this screen. That's critical. So if you're not a site admin on your site and you've got a problem, go and find the person, contact them, tell me, oh, what version have we got, please? So on the administration block, go to Site Administration, Plugins Overview, and there's also a lovely link there called Additional Plugins. So and that reduces the list down. It's good, just a bit of water. And it'll tell you the exact two figures. So you can see on that screenshot there, hopefully you've got grid format tax topics. It's got the version and a number underneath, which is like a date. Well, it is a date, it's like a version date thing. That critical information is absolutely necessary to a plugin developer, myself, to be able to then replicate your problem on the right version of Moodle with the right version of the plugin, so we know what's going on. Because very well we might know, oh, that was that fault in that problem. If you are grading to the next version, you'll find it's already fixed. I don't have to spend the next 2 hours looking at it. Yeah. So really, really useful information, because the plugin developers will know all their versions and what's in them, what's not in them, and will be able to help you out straight away rather than you going through a series of 4 or 5 different answers. Okay, and lots more information on the Noodle docs there for forums help that can help you about posting information as well. So that's one thing to critical do. Also, you won't see there is, well, you see site administration notifications, a little bit on the screenshot. That is where you can find out the exact version of Moodle as well. Really, really important piece of information to put in your post. So note both of them down and be prepared to put them in your post. Okay. Often you'll get a reply of, especially like on the things forum, how can you, do an action like purge all caches, or can you turn developer debugging on? How can you look for errors on the browser console? And of course, I had said earlier, print screen. All these sort of actions are part of diagnosing it, and you might not know how to do it. And this is what I'm going to talk to you about. And this may help you rectify the problem, or at least be a part of the diagnosis that the developers are asking you to do. If your Moodle site's gone completely blank, there is a link there that says you can do administration via the command line, so you can do like a purge or caches or something if it's gone completely and utterly wrong. Excuse me. So, purge or caches. Where the Moodle works is to make itself really quickly, first on page loads and new plugins and stuff like that. it caches everything and makes a whole big, it works out all of the different calculations and bungs it all into one file, which it then sends to you as the all file. This is from a theme perspective, because it gets all its star sheets and all its bits of information from loads and loads and loads of different places, and it bungs them all together, and including the language strings. So maybe sometimes, you've updated a plugin, it hasn't done this automatically, or a setting. They'll say, have you purged all caches? If after doing this the problem still persists, then that's the next step. They'll say, oh yeah, try this, and sometimes it will solve the problem for you for some unknown reason. And if you tell the developer, yeah, purge all caches, sorted it, then there is something they can write in code in the next version that prevent that happening. So like when you save one of the settings on a theme, there's a little line that I can write which says, oh, clear the cache out please, and make sure this gets stuck and recalculated. And it's really useful. And you'll find that, as I say, there under Site Administration, Development, Purge all caches. Really simple, straightforward button there, and it'll clear it out. Now you will find it's better off doing this at a quiet time, because it will slow your Moodle down for a minute or two, as when people refresh the page, it's got to work out all of this different things, pieces of information and language strings and stuff like that. So take with a pinch of salt when you be really thinking about, don't do it like when loads of people are on it. Yeah, and be prepared to reload the page yourself. Okay, so next one, developer level debugging. I'm thinking about Lego. Developer will ask you to do it sometimes. Can you turn on developer level debugging? That's because often it's running in the background, there is something going on, and it'll produce a thing called a stat trace, which isn't printed out. Now this can give information out to someone else, like a possibly potential hacker. Take it a bit wise, but there's some advice you'll see on the screen. It's safe to turn on access to the server. If you have to do it on a production, do read the warnings, do turn it on temporarily, try and replicate the problem that you did previously. Note down, don't worry if it means complete and utter gobbledygook and you've no idea what it means. Note it down, print screen it, show it to the developer, or even message them if you're worried about site security. It will mean something to us. There's a thing called a stat trace, which is at the point of failure. It then goes all the way back to a certain point, and it gives all the points and gives us all the lovely line numbers, and we can tell from there where it's what line in the code has gone wrong, and given your description of the problem, start to figure out and do some detective work and replicate and understand why it may have gone wrong, and then work out a solution of how to fix it. Okay, now, so on that whole page and bits of stack trace, even if it doesn't mean anything to you, just print screen it anyway. A developer will immediately be able to cut out the wheat from the chaff and understand, oh, that's relevant, that's not relevant, blah, blah, blah. But if you give them everything, then they can make that decision because they know what they're looking at, even if it doesn't make sense to you. Okay. Another thing people ask for is, can you look at the browser console? And you go, what? I never knew that existed. Oh, you're having a laugh. But it's really useful. Now, this is safe because this is only done at your end. You're not actually, anything you do on this window is not affecting your Moodle installation. It's only done within your web browser at your end at all. So you can stuff. Now, if you do turn on developer debugging, it produces a lot of information and error messages. Now you can see from the screenshots here, that's Firefox, that there's a whole window, and this is like server, blah, 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 and there's a thing called the console. Now, all there you can see in sort of orange there are sort of warnings, but if there's some errors, they can be really, really helpful. So the best thing to do is press F12, and this is PC, but I believe it'll work. Actually, no, that's Linux as well. So there, press F12, refresh the page on the page that's having the problem. Even print screen it, look for the errors, print screen them, note them down, copy them, give them to the developer. really, really helpful. If you're feeling adventurous, have a muck around, look at the CSS, have a look at the JavaScript, have a look and see if you think, that's what that is. Give them a hint, and see if you can maybe understand what's going on yourself. But if you don't, if you're not worried about, if you're nervous about doing that, just again, take a print screen, take a note. That may help. Probably only do that if you're asked for it. But if you feel still, if you do press it before in the post and you see that happening, put a screenshot in. It doesn't cost anything really. I do know certain forums have like a 1 screenshot or 100 like K upload limit. So in that case, just do 2 posts. Put 1 post with 1 piece of information, 1 screenshot. Reply to your very post with another screenshot. Easily, job done. Okay. The developer who wrote it will understand that. I'll be able to look at them for my own plugins and think, yeah, okay, that's an error in my software, that makes sense. That's an error in somebody else's where it's conflicting, and another plugin that is that I've never tested with before. That makes sense. I'll contact their developer. Just helps us to help you, if that makes sense. Okay, the print screen. Picture speaks 1,000 words. I use a wonderful tool. I think it is free. I'm not sure it's open source or not, but it's certainly free, called GreenShot, but there's other ones available as well, and that's on a PC. But take a print screen, put it into your favorite print program, edit it, crop it down, get the relevant bits, even then draw on it. Put little text of, this happened here, arrow, blah, 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 in your description. It can really, really, really help. Because I've had previous posts in the past, somebody giving a description, I've then asked for a screenshot and think, you mean that point, not that point. And your description may not be what the developer is thinking of as something, or you may not have the right terminology that what it is. And it's just it's not because you're wrong, it's because you're just not aware of it. Just like, we'll have our own skill sets, and I'm not available. I couldn't do open heart surgery or something like that. It's just a different skill set. So, as I said before, forums have their own file size limits, so do prepared. You can shrink the resolution and the quality down. And humans were really, really good at interpreting images, so even if the quality is poor, we can still understand things. That picture there's a camera I picked up. So that would be old-fashioned way of taking a screenshot. So even if you took if it wasn't working, even if you got a camera and you took a picture on your screen, that would still be okay. But try and use a tool, and even as I annotate, that would be really, really good. Okay, still doing good for time. Okay, so you've gone to all this effort, you've done a nice post, you've gathered all this information up, and then the developer replies. How do you deal with that scary response? Now, as you see, there's not a typo. Don't panic. Don't panic! Yeah? If it makes sense, if what the person's replying, great. Do what they told you to do. Try it out. They should know what they're doing. Great, if you think. But if you're not happy with it, or you're not sure how to do it, ask. There's no such thing as a silly question if you don't know the answer. And be happy with what they are telling you to do. If you don't think they're credible, ask for other advice from other people. Yeah? Be sure that the person replying has a bit of credibility. Now, if both collapse topics, good format, essential, my sort of themes, shoehorn, and so forth, if I'm replying, clearly believe what I'm saying. I'm not 100% right all the time, can't, because that's why anybody doing computing who says I know everything about computing is basically lying. But somebody else might know something. I don't know. Know someone. Yeah. So I was going with this. Yeah. So at least they'll have some sort of credibility. If someone you don't really know or something, ask somebody else. Oh, yeah, I can have like a second opinion. And say, and ask someone to clarify it. Yeah, so don't be scared, don't be put off. If it doesn't make sense, ask. Okay. Testing reply. Now, maybe testing summer reply on the production server may not such a good idea, because sometimes as a developer, I'm guessing, okay, I want to try to replicate it on my own system, so yeah, go ahead. But there's so many combinations of Moodle and plugins, we can't test them all. Real nightmare to deal with, and impossible to predict what we're going to happen. And in fact, the code is GPL v3, so not actually liable at all. So the best thing to do is to have your own test server. Not only is it great for trying out new plugins and replicating problems, but you can also learn Moodle on it without no fear whatsoever of it going wrong. Because if it goes wrong, it's just your test server. It's just something you've experimented. Throw it away, put it back. Yeah? And then you can be then really sure that when you put it on your production server, I hope everybody understands what I'm going to test and production. So production is your live site that everybody's using. Test server is your little practicey area. Okay, so if test on test server, go to production when you're really 100% sure, or you've made loads and loads of backups, or you know someone who can get you back out of the hole that you've just sort of inadvertently dug for yourself, or the developers dug for you. You know, you can be very annoyed with them, which is fair enough, but that's life. We can't predict everything. So, like in the picture there, you know, you've got your sort of life jacket, well, not life jacket, life ring thing. Yeah. So be happy. Now, test server, you may not be running one. So, a couple of years back, let's go next slide. Yeah. A couple of years back in iMoot 2014, I did a whole presentation on it, and it's now available on YouTube. And I've put some links in the course, and I've got some other bits and bobs, and I reviewed loads of ways of doing a test server, and the best one I found was the easiest one, and I still use it in bits in virtual machines, is the Bitnami one. And I said at the start, I'm just talking for myself, so this is just my personal opinion, so take it or leave it, believe me, sort of thing. And I really still really like it. The way they just package together, you click on it, it's a whole install, and you get Moodle up and running in literally minutes, depending on how powerful your machine is. I got my own Moodle presentation. It's still relevant. Maybe the Zen one has gone away, which is another one, but the others are still relevant. Yeah, it isn't as scary as you think. The Bitnami one installs the application, so just like installing any other application. If it goes wrong, just uninstall it. What do you lose? Try or find an old laptop, put it on that. Find an old computer, put it on that. Yeah, think risk reward, and also then it's great for practice, as I said earlier. You can try things out. You can try new plugins if you're uncertain. For that looks great. I wonder how that works. Try and just install it on your test server and have a play with it. Great fun and great for then finding information for developers when you've got a problem. Okay. So, other places of information. So there's not only the forums. There's an iMoot group. There's a Moodle for Teachers group. There's another one, or for one, that in 2066. There's another sort of Moodle group. There's the Teaching with Moodle group from the Teaching Moodle course that Mary Cooch and Helen, I forget her name, Helen, she's so well known there. Moodle Helen will do every month. That's really good course. I highly recommend going on it. Especially if you're new to Moodle, and you can learn lots. I went on a couple of years back when they first set it up, and I still learned some new stuff. So really good. LinkedIn, and then you've got the Moodle documents, which is really sort of people think, oh, forums, blah blah. They're not really aware of them. So there's the main page there. Okay, that's Moodle 3, and now 3.1's out, and there's also the developer documentation if you want to have a look at that. If you're then thinking about getting into development, that's a great place to start. And yeah, there's that Learn Moodle.net course, which relates with teaching in Moodle, I believe. And if you have any more other places good, please put them on the forum for this presentation. Okay. Given that, the flip side. So we're taking this perspective from you posting and asking for help. So when you try things out, how will you now respond on the other way? You now can see it from the perspective of you posting and someone who's just learning new to Moodle. How will you now help people on your Moodle site who are asking you questions about other things? You know, how emotionally, empathetically will you now be? Will you be now a little bit more patience? Do you think maybe on your site you haven't got enough information and guidance? You've seen what's on Moodle.org and what all the links are saying here of how much Moodle HQ provides and the community provides. Are you now providing the same thing for your site? How will you respond? Will your attitude change? Do you need to provide more training? Are your users posting the same thing over and over again because they're getting more frustrated? Possibly. Is there something to think about? Okay. So there's some references. The forums, the languages, the rules, all from the sort of the previous slides, but all condensed onto one sort of slide there. I've also put all of these on the course, and there's a reference to my own Moodle presentation slide from 2 years back, and the files that came with it, and the whole screenshot cast, which Vinny kindly put on YouTube. Silly. In fact, this presentation within 6 months' time will be on YouTube as well, and all the links are there. Okay. So that's me talking for a little bit. So we have, to summarise, we learned about forum overview and etiquette. We talked about the information you need in a post, not only to write down and gather and print screen, and to put, you make sure you do have Moodle version, you do have the plugin version, and a good description of the problem and a screenshot annotated if better. Or possible. We talked about how to get that information. If there's something you don't know or how to get that information, put that in the post of, I'll ask you that, I don't know where to find this, blah, blah, blah. How to understand and test the reply, so you be certain of it and it has credibility. If you're not certain, ask. Where to find other sorts of help. The flip side, look at the sort of empathetic bits. Now, a little bit of homework. Nobody hates the homework word, but I thought I'd go. Use what you learnt in presentation just now. Discover what the different forms are available. So instead of just posting in general, you can see that, really that belongs in the theme form. Really that's really a quiz problem. It's not the theme, it's sort of the layout of the quiz. It's not quite working because the quiz has its own styles. Put that in the quiz forum. Yeah? Maybe try and download a Moodle install, a test installation. In that presentation 2 years back, I did links to the packages that are provided by Moodle.org. So if you don't fancy Bitnami, try one of those ones out. And also discover the other source of information I put there. So you may be aware of the forums and the documentation, but you're not available for the sort of other groups that are around. Okay, thank you. So it's the what does this button do? Ask me, moderator, developer, and so forth. Please put your questions in the chat. Thank you very much for attending, participating, going to be asked questions. Do provide me feedback, because my perspective is one perspective, your perspective is another unique perspective of life. Really appreciated. And that's my about.me page, which sort of has links to my stuff and what me and bits and bobs. Thank you.
So thanks very much for that, Gareth. That was a great overview of the process there. Let's see what we get now as a few questions. I hope that people have got something they can ask you.
Yeah, thank you for the comments so far. Wherever was has put, I usually get help from forums and applying the productions. I will never do that now. So great. So now you think, certainly go and grab yourself a test server, have a play. You can run it. I think once got Moodle running on a Raspberry Pi, which is another presentation somebody had earlier. That was really, really slow. But you can still get an old version and run it on an old laptop, old computer, anything you like, and have a good fun and learn something new. Oh, don't be. The Bitnami one, it comes with a full-blown Apache MySQL database. The only thing I can think with IIS running is that you might have a problem with the port. So you might have to use port 8080 instead of port 80 if you're IIS running, which is a different web server. You can choose that on installation. I do cover ports. What ports mean or what the whole information on the slides, but do please contact me via the course on iMoot here if you're uncertain about what that slide means or what a TCP/IP port or rather an IP port is. Certainly you can do 8080 is called the alternative HTTP port, and that will be fine. But don't worry, that should work. Don't be scared. It's only an application. You can always uninstall it. It's not life critical. When I say find an old computer, then there's even less risk.
Gareth, one thing I found is when I'm looking for a previous answer on the forum, I'm not repeating questions that have already been answered a dozen times. Frankly, I find that the search function on Moodle.org rather unreliable. It produces too many positives, and I've often found that doing the search of Google on doing the Moodle search on Google produces a much more precise answer. Is that something that you've found, or is it just me not being able to do it?
To be fair, Andy, I haven't really thought about it. Never something I really I've not considered. Sometimes I use a web browser, search engine, and sometimes use a search on Moodle.org. But often I seem to be so focused on course formats and themes that either myself or another moderator would have seen it already. So we remember things posted from a long way back and actually search for something really, really specific. So I don't think I can really answer that in terms of, oh yeah, one's better than the other one's not, because it's something I haven't noticed. I mean, maybe it's something, ironically, to put a post on their forums about and see what and get other people's contradict CatchUD2, but almost start a post on it, get other people's opinion. Maybe there is something that can improve, maybe like an autocomplete, or maybe you can integrate someone's search engine into a site. Maybe Moodle HQ could do that.
It's just I remember a case of, it was actually a post that I'd asked a question and the same problem cropped up like a year later. And
right,
the post was there and I searched for it, couldn't find it. There was like 20 pages of answers. I Googled it and it was the top answer. And you think, well, then maybe Google does do something right, but
yeah, so much more powerful than some people give it credit for. Yeah, Ed, yeah, you said, yeah, you've always found this to be true. Maybe, yeah, either that or raise a thing called a Moodle tracker where you can raise a Moodle site issue and say, oh, could you use Google's search or one of the ones? Scary.
Yeah.
If you don't ask, you don't get sometimes. Wonder what the comments would be on that. But maybe, and that's another thing actually, there's a thing called Moodle Tracker where you're raising bugs. So actually the best place to start is the forums. and then before you get to Moodle Tracker, which is a whole different ball game. Any more questions, please? Anything, a prior opportunity. If you'd like to ask me, I'm quite happy to answer. Not yet. No. It's only paper, because I think, yeah, something I looked into. Okay. Good point. I'm thinking that might be too expensive, so I need to think about that. I'll do the price as it's from it. I may, in a few months' time, drop the price on that. Okay, that's a lot for shipping. Yeah. Okay, with perhaps, Andy, that's something I'd like to maybe answer, not when the session's being recorded.
Okay.
So if anybody's got a few more questions to do this, and then I'll answer that question in a minute, if I may.
Gareth, maybe you could very quickly, off the top of your head, run through what you were talking about, the people answering the posts and their credibility. I know there's this helpful Moodler, and there's a few other symbols at the top. If you could maybe, you can't show the people that, but maybe tell them about the different symbols and what they mean.
Yes, indeed. There's some badges, which you may notice when people reply. That does credibility. So there is people who are Moodle HQ people. There's a badge for that. There's a page on this somewhere, but off the top of my head, there's one for core developers. So I've got a core developer badge because I've fixed things and I've submitted patches to the actual core Moodle in the past. I've also is a plugin developer badge, so that means I'm clearly plugin developer. But more critically, anybody can then get the helpful Moodle badge. So if when you're replying to things and you give good posts and people think that useful, they make that mark that useful, then there's some sort of algorithm that goes in the background. And if you've got enough posts in different forums and enough people have marked them as useful, you will get your helpful Moodler badge. So because people have marked you as doing good responses which have been helpful to them, and that can help with the credibility as well. Does that answer your question, Andy?
Yes, it does. Thanks. Okay, then I think we'll wrap it up then at this point. Thanks very much, Gareth. A great presentation, as we expect from you always. It's sort of a tradition now, I think, that you do great presentations at iMoot. And I'll turn off the recording now. If you've got a few last words to say before I do that, then we can deal with a couple of other things offline then.
Thank you, Andy. That put more pressure from my second presentation, but thank you.